Alistair, good day to you, my friend, and welcome here as always. Always a pleasure to be able to chat with you. We all waited and waited and waited for the Israeli response to the Iranian response, and whatever happened in the past 3 or 4 days, did the Israelis cause any meaningful damage to anything or anyone in Iran?
No, but something significant did happen, I think, during this, because it was supposed to lead off with destruction of the air defenses of Iran, what they call SEAD, suppression of enemy air defenses. And the aircraft were supposed to, if you like, destroy the air defenses, both in Iraq and Syria on the way, and then to do that in Iran, so that the second and third waves would come in with conventional weapons to destroy the targets that had been set for them. The second and third waves were ready to bring conventional weapons, but they could only go into that, if you like, they could only penetrate into Iranian airspace if it was safe for them to do that, if you like, the air defense had been properly suppressed. Now, what happened, we don't know precisely, so much of this is putting it together, but those second and third waves never happened. They didn't happen at all. We got into the first wave, and then suddenly the Israelis said, well, that's it, we're finished. It's now over, and we've won, and it's a great success. And what seems to have happened was during that first wave, the Israeli aircraft with their long-range missiles on it that were supposed to destroy the air defenses never got beyond 70 to 100 kilometers closer to Iran than that. Too far, if you like, for their missiles to lock on to air defenses, because they need, the signal, the sign that the air defenses are working to be able to lock onto it. They weren't able to lock onto it. And they said, the key thing they said, and this comes from Israeli sources, more than Iranians, but from Israeli sources, they said, we've discovered an unknown air defense system over Tehran province. So what was happening? Well, it seems to be that, first of all, they were being locked onto by another missile defense system, and that they were frightened to go ahead, and so they scrapped the attack. They then just released their missiles, these long-range missiles, but these long-range missiles are basically guided by GPS. Some of them may have a radar at the very end for sort of locking on to a signal from a radar system or something that they can defend it. But basically, most of the Israeli long-range missiles are guided by GPS. Well, we know, first of all, that the Russians are adept at jamming GPS and spoofing GPS. And maybe that was one of the things that happened. But what I think we are seeing when we heard about this unexplained air defense system was possibly a Russian air defense missile system that can attack stealth fighters like the S-35s of Israel. That they can do that because although you need to be very close to find a stealth fighter with ordinary radar, if you have a missile that has a radar capacity in its warhead and would be able to identify a stealth fighter, then the whole idea of the attack on Iran seems to have collapsed. It would be too dangerous. They couldn't, the conventional weapons, the conventional bombers, all loaded up, ready to go in and bomb targets, wouldn't dare do it because they were not going into a secure area, a secured airspace. It was unsecured airspace. In fact, it was being dominated by air defense systems, which threatened the stealth fighters themselves. I mean, a huge affair. It has geostrategic implications if this is indeed what happened. So they released a lot of, quite a few, 20, I think, missiles. Did they cause any damage? No. There were a few radars on the east, on the western side by Iraq, in the two provinces next to Iraq, that had some damage on them. All the rest, and what seems to have happened is there was this plan, as I say, three-phase plan. And the Israelis just, when it was cancelled and scuppered, they just announced the plan as if it had happened. He said, we've succeeded. We've gone in. We flew over Tehran. Of course, they didn't fly over Tehran. They didn't get closer than 70 kilometers to the borders of Iran itself, let alone over Tehran. We succeeded. We flew over. We suppressed the air defenses. And then we bombed targets and we destroyed their missile capacity. It's just hype. It's not true. There was tiny damage. There were two areas. One was an IRGC base that they said, but it's been abandoned by the IRGC for some time. And it's used mostly for films, mounting films. They do, the television use it for films. The right character. And then there was another place called Parchin. And Parchin has a history, because I know it quite well from 10 years ago. At one point, the Israelis announced to the world that they collected a few samples of enriched uranium that came from near Parchin, and there had to be an inspection. And so the IEA, which includes, not just includes Americans, not Israelis, but it includes American experts within it too, did an inspection of the IEA and found nothing. It's not integral to their missile system at all. It deals mostly with smaller weapons, manpads. It's just a conventional sort of military research station. And then the Israelis said, oh, but there's tarmac in the front. So there are hidden basements underneath, and you didn't do that. So those were investigated too. And there were no hidden basements, and there was no weapons program proved whatsoever. This has been going on with Parchin for years, and that's out in the open. And it seems that 2 or 3 buildings suffered some damage, but probably not from missiles. It may well have been from those quadcopters.
Do you think that the Israeli leadership, the IDF leadership, and the civilian leadership realizes how impregnable Iran is, or are they deluding themselves as well as their own people?
I think it's quite clear. They have to take the victory route and declare victory. They have to, because the strategic concepts are too important. If Russia has indeed lent, if you like, an anti-stealth missile system to Iran, which secures airspace, it has huge ramifications because the whole stealth idea was based on stealth aircraft being able to penetrate into, if you like, airspace that is dominated by air defense systems and destroy them because they could not be found and not seen on radar. Well, clearly, if that doesn't hold, the whole concept, and this could impact on the whole of the Western sort of defense concept, on the fact that, I mean, what we're saying in the end is, that at the end of the day, Iran has an effective air defense system. Israel does not. And that has big implications for the whole region, has big implications because also, there is in the background, this huge competition, Russian technical competence on the battlefield versus NATO's technical competence. And everyone presumed that, Israel, as little America, therefore had the ability to go and bomb Iran. Well, it was aborted. And they fired a few long-range missiles from 70 to 100 kilometers. But there's no way those missiles would be accurate because they rely on old GPS. They are sort of pre-configured with old GPS. And then they have to get, new, if you like, at the end, they have to have, if you like, new data provided to get their target. Otherwise, you're just firing them blindly. And it seems that's what more or less has happened. They sort of fired blindly because they loaded up with these missiles. They couldn't get onto it. They met this unexpected air defense system around Tehran, and they called it all off. 2 and 3, the big bombing didn't take place. So the damage was minimal. The Israelis, though, have to go to the victory narrative.
Right.
They couldn't say,